Alrighty, it is 7 o'clock. We will call the February 26th, 2024 Select Board meeting to order. Do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight? Good to keep it short? Good. Minutes for the meeting of February 12th, 2024. Do I have a motion to accept them? Let me talk about them. Moved by, all right, moved by Tor and seconded by Rufus. Does anyone have any changes, issues, corrections? I didn't see anything. Nope. All right, then all in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting passes for nothing, one absence. Let's see. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda tonight? Anybody? Come on down, Mr. Carey.
Val Carey, North Newcastle. I just wanted to follow up on the matter about the East Hassan Ave, whether or not the work plan that Sarah had mentioned to me that the road commissioner had established for this calendar year, whether that is in your hands yet. And just wanted to push that along a bit. Thank you.
A reminder's good.
Part of the capital project.
Yep.
Discussion with the budget. So
Yep.
I think that's the third workshop in March. 20th, we'll have an updated version of where Hassan Road falls on the priority list.
Current decade would be useful. Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? No. All right, then moving on to our new business item A, posting roads for weight limits. Kevin, your list was great.
Thank you. So this is a combination of both my conversations with the local roads program with DOT, and some of the residents in town had ideas and suggestions that I didn't forward or include as part of this packet, but I wanted to at least have, because they're more specific to North Newcastle. And I really wanted to have this conversation more broadly about the items that you would want to consider when making that decision.
Mm-hmm.
And, taking a look at there's roughly 42 miles of road that we are responsible for plowing. 24 of those miles are our town roads. So we're responsible for maintaining and plowing about 24 miles of road. And that's based on review of the roads contract with Hagar Enterprises that takes care of our plowing. So it was an interesting exercise as I'm developing the budget, it also coincided with sort of this initial analysis. And really you have only a couple of roads that are essentially pass-through roads. Most of them are dead ends.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of dead end roads, and most of them are private. So in all honesty, the 24 miles is not too bad. I mean, you do have a large square acreage.
Right. A lot of state roads running through here too.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you wanted to have a conversation tonight about these different questions that I proposed. My thought is one option is to, put this out through the survey form that I've been doing with you for some of the questions and things we do, where you rank importance or non-important, or is this just something that, you take into consideration when requested? So like North Newcastle Road is requested the posting. Do you use these questions to make your own judgment calls and then you collectively make a decision? Do you want it more formal than that? I just would like some direction from the board as a body. And I don't know if you want to do it through the survey process or just a conversation tonight or what.
So I guess an option would be to have a form that can be filled out. An option would be to have, or not.
Just a request comes in and then an analysis is done based on these 14 questions to determine, I've been provided enough information, both from our road commissioner, from my own work within the town office, and then from some of the residents who provided me feedback, I could go through each of these questions and give you an analysis of North Newcastle Road and tell you, here's all the information I gathered. What do you want to do with it? And I don't know if like there are particular of these 14, there's particular questions here that are the most important to the board or least important to the board. And I don't know if that helps weigh those decisions. Similar to how we'll have a conversation with the fire truck. We went through and essentially gave percentages of points that you could get for certain aspects of a fire engine.
Right.
And based on that analysis, you have the highest bid is, or the highest rating is going to be the one that gets chosen.
Well, that sort of analysis might make sense in determining road postings.
Correct.
Like to rate each of these questions per road, and say, well, does it score above or below a certain benchmark? I mean, it might make sense to actually workshop that and come up with a scorecard.
Right.
For roads. I don't know if that's something we're gonna do tonight.
No, I'm not asking you to do
Yeah.
that tonight. I'm asking you for the big picture. What do you want me to bring back to you?
Workshop probably.
I mean, just coming up with a system of scoring a road so that it's not, so that it's somewhat scientific, and there is some, there's a little bit of, information that we need to have, like is the base or sub base stable? Like what's, what has been done to that road in the past? And then and there's an actual answer for
Yeah.
that. Whereas, some of the things are a little more squishy, I guess,
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely are.
does it create a bigger issue on alternate routes? Impact on historic buildings property. That's kind of there's not like a definite answer on that. And that's where like a scoring might make sense.
If we could figure out how to score something like that, even.
I think, yeah, I mean, use an example that the fire company used to score their fire trucks, I think, is kind of a sample,
Mhm.
like a 1 to 10 or something like that.
Well, yeah, it seems like
But-
some of these things are going to be more important than others, like,
Right.
Number 11 or number 9
Yeah.
on this list would be, that's a yes or no. If
Uh-huh.
there's a
Yeah.
small span bridge that's posted for weight, well, obviously then the road needs to get
Right.
Mhm.
looked at further. What's the land use of abutting land? That's maybe a little less important. Because most of these roads have residences and businesses and, mixed use. Yeah.
It's hard to,
Well, that's why I wanted to make it your problem.
Yeah.
Figure that out.
fair enough, fair enough.
I mean, I'd definitely be in favor of trying to be able to matrix this and to being able to come up with a scoring system. And then there's less questions afterwards. I mean, yeah, you do have some questions in here that might be more based off of feeling than actual hard facts, but there's at least, you can show your thought process on.
Yeah, and then if there is an accident, we can point to that and say,
can
well,
read-
this is why we made the decision that we made
Mhm.
versus
Mhm.
so-and-so thought it was a good idea.
Right.
And so we did it. It'd be nice to be able to point to, well, here's the reasoning behind it. I mean, does it make sense to set the time to actually workshop this?
Yeah, I just, I guess what the agenda of the workshop is to not actually do the scoring. I think that we could do at a meeting. But
No, I
it'd be-
think to prioritize,
create the list of
to
questions.
prioritize the list and figure out how to weigh each of those questions.
I think it's good. Yeah.
We could do a survey
Mhm.
even beforehand and kind of get a consensus on what people's thoughts are on the priorities.
I think, yeah, that seems like a good idea.
Yeah, your individual levels of importance for each of the questions. And then,
Survey beforehand is gonna give you a baseline going into the workshop on where
Correct.
we're standing on this.
So have to think about it a little bit more.
Mhm.
Well, I'm thinking the information that we gather going into the workshop is this list with more populated list or, or yeah.
well,
Things that don't matter. I don't know, I think to have this list and go through these items one by one during the workshop, which is gonna take, I think, we have ourselves an hour and a half to 2 hours to kind of create a list.
I
That we
couldn't
can
think of
create
anything.
into a scoring matrix.
Mhm.
I think that's what I have in mind for the goal of the workshop.
Yeah, and then as petitions come forward for each road, then that's an easier thing to look at. We
Mhm.
can compare the roads knowns
Mhm.
to the scorecard and decide how to go on.
I couldn't think of anything else to put on the list, though.
Well, maybe that could be on the
Mhm.
survey if
Mhm.
in doing the survey, something else comes up, have a space for additional items.
when do you want to schedule that?
We have 3 workshops coming up.
Budget related workshops. Next Monday, I need the space because we gotta start preparing for the primaries.
I think we get through the budget
Push it into April.
and then we go.
Okay,
Yeah, because we have almost all of March is taken up with meetings and workshops right now.
Yeah.
We have one every week, a workshop every week, 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So we'd be looking at maybe the first week of April. So we have a meeting on April 8th and 22nd.
twenty-second, you'll be approving warrant articles for the town meeting.
Do you guys want to do it on a
First
separate,
week of April.
do you want to do it on a separate night or before a regular meeting? Does anyone have an opinion?
We stick with a Wednesday, isn't maybe. Yeah, first week, because there's no meeting that week.
I mean, do you think we can hammer this out in an hour just before the meeting?
Yeah.
Should we
Yes.
just say Wednesday? the
Say yes.
3rd?
Wouldn't that be a good?
Yes.
Yeah,
Try to.
let's just do that.
So do the
On the
8th.
8th.
6 to 7 workshop on the 8th.
I have a feeling if we put a little more thought into this before we get to the workshop meeting, we can be efficient.
Well, between, we have this in front of us now and then doing the survey, we're gonna be thinking. about
Mhm.
this.
Yeah, I did just give this to you Friday, so.
It's in my calendar.
Mike.
Okay. Madam Chair, would you call a special workshop, 6 o'clock?
We'll call for, yeah, special workshop on road weight limits on the 8th at 6 p.m., 8th of April.
Okay.
Excellent.
I'll just go one other question that was at the top of my mind and slipped away. So when we talked about this in I think November, we talked about having, reaching out to the DOT, which I think you did, which helped inform me on this list.
Yes. Yep.
But we were looking for them if they had any standards that, they could provide us with anything that is.
No, I think the biggest thing in standards would be the base and the sub-base
The
questions.
crash, okay. the
Crash
base,
data,
sub-base,
crash data and the
yeah.
sub-base data would be the top two.
Okay.
And I think the conversation about the level of residential versus commercial and the cost prohibitiveness of alternate routes were some of the things that he said that they look at when they advise towns about no through truck postings.
Okay.
Because this isn't a temporary posting in a sense,
Right.
it's, and he also brought up commercial vehicles, anything over 26,000. Commercial. Versus posting for roads, it's like 23.
Okay.
So
First
we have a
time
little,
posted.
yeah, he's like, why does your ordinance say 23,000 for this kind of broad posting concept
Mhm.
versus just for posting during seasonal changes? Like today, we started posting Newcastle roads for the weather changes. And there's this discrepancy between 23,000 and 26,000. I said to him, well, because MMA told me to, and he's like, well, it says for no through trucks, it's usually 26,000. So I don't know if we bother modifying or just leave it at 23. So
Okay.
those are sort of that's where the conversation.
Okay.
Works. It's your decision.
Right, because that's what we have is a policy.
And
Right.
we have an ordinance, but it's an ordinance that acts like a policy. It's one of the very few that do.
Okay.
Most ordinances have to be approved by by town meeting. This is one of those ordinances by state statute. You have to make a decision. You should hold a
Right.
public hearing, but you
Right.
make a decision.
Right, so it could be changed if we decided to.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And that's how we left it when we drafted the ordinance, was we took out any language of temporary versus
Right.
permanent.
Right.
Because what does permanent really mean?
Right.
It's just a decision by the select boards. We just took out any language that said temporary.
Okay. All right.
It's sad that I remember.
No, it's good to be able to remember. Yes, sure. Come on, can you, come down here though?
North Castle Road. I feel like you're kind of needlessly starting from scratch. I'm hearing a lot of things that we started thinking about 2 years ago and have done a whole lot of research. And boy, I really feel for you if you have to sort of start at this point. And I'd really like to give you the material that we've generated. Some of it is specific to North Newcastle, but it actually has very broad implications too for this process. And I'm just wondering if I could get that to you before your workshop. somehow.
That'd be
Yeah.
super helpful.
Okay,
Sure, yeah.
and so should I send it to each of you? Because I've already sent it to Kevin and it hasn't gotten to you, so.
You didn't ask me to send it to them. You gave it to me.
Yeah.
I'll forward it to them. Not a problem. Yeah. Is
Both the roads analysis.
that what you guys want? I'll forward that. to
Yeah.
you.
Sure.
send it on,
We,
yeah.
we can look at it. It might help us, or we don't need to read.
Yeah, no, there's-
So,
There's been a huge learning curve for all of us, and I think that you're at the bottom of that curve, frankly, for a lot of these points. And so I'd like to help you
No, that's great.
ramp up.
And the workshop will be, come to the workshop and we can kind of discussion.
So both documents.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Wanda Wilcox. I live in North Newcastle and I just think, and I know the workshop's coming, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I think that you guys are going to open up a huge can of worms if you start posting one road versus another. If you close off a crossroad like the North Newcastle Road, then you're putting more trucks on Jones's Woods Road and you're putting them on the Sheepscot Road, which are no better roads. They're just as hilly, they're just as curvy. And I just think we're going to go down a road that once you open that and you let somebody reclose a road, then you're going to have a lot more people wanting to close their roads. And how do you make that determination on who you close and who you don't? I mean, we have posted speed limits. We've already slowed down this traffic on the North Newcastle Road to a speed that I drove it today. I couldn't even drive the 35 miles an hour that it said it was. I think I'm a careful driver, and people were still whizzing by me the other way. You know, you can't police it. We don't have the police ability to come and do this. And so I just want to make sure that we don't open a huge can of worms that we can't close if we start closing roads.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Wanda.
Can I just, these are great comments, and I just think that the reason why we need to do this kind of method is so that we have something semi-scientific. So that it doesn't, so that these decisions don't come down to just who either speaks the loudest up in this board or in the audience, and then we just make a decision by whatever we feel at that night, and it changes from board to board. So I think if there's some way, and that would, I think, hopefully be realized in the workshop, if we can come up with some kind of way that we can point to, you know, some basis and then make decisions from there. That's what I hope. Yeah. I understand both points. So, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, let's move on to unfinished business, the fire truck bid. Matrix. I don't know how you guys got through those so fast.
Stayed late. Burning the midnight oil.
That it involves some coffee.
All right.
Hmm.
Do you want, who wants to go over the thought process? Tom, Kevin, somebody, just behind the matrix and why you guys arrived at this decision you did?
Sure.
Can we ask a member of the fire company to come up?
That's you, Lucas.
All right, Lucas.
And our fire chief is out for an emergency.
I thought it was
Nope,
Tom.
he's not. He's snuck in the
Oh,
back.
oh, he's not
You
in.
now.
That's his twin brother.
Never mind. You wanna come up, Casey? Well, it was actually Casey, Lucas, and Thomas initially sat in my office and we talked about what this process should look like in terms of creating percentages related to technical cost, delivery schedule, and warranty and support. So that was the initial conversation. I know that they went back and fine-tuned the percentages and then use that on each of these bids that are sitting up here. If anyone from the public would like to see them. Good start?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing was the technical specs. We had to make sure it actually was gonna work for what we needed. As far as the chassis, safety, the body on it, and the pump. So that's why that was graded so high. It was 50% just for that category. And then we did the 20% for the cost, 15% for the delivery schedule, and then the warranty and support was the last 15%. And that was split up among the warranty for the body, electrical systems, service locations where we could get it worked on if something need to get fixed. And then the paint, and then the bumper to bumper warranty. And so we pretty much, we sat down, gave each person a build spec and got a whiteboard out and started with the first category. All right, find the chassis specs. And we just listed out everything each truck had for chassis specs, and we went down through and figured out, well, this one is good for this, but it doesn't have this. And this one has this, but it doesn't have that. And just pretty much had to work down through and figure out what was going to work for us. And the way this grading system works, I mean, numbers don't lie. So even if we had an idea of what we really wanted in the back of our head, if the numbers didn't work for it, then it really wasn't gonna, it wouldn't work for us. So it just so happened that the one that did get the best score also happened to be the cheapest. But
Least expensive.
And that wasn't
At
even,
least-
that wasn't even something you rated.
we did rate
Little
the
bit.
cost. That was at 20% of the total.
Oh,
Point
there it is in
for-
the
for-
middle. Yep, it
for
is. Yep.
cost.
Yep.
But the one that we ended up that scored the highest ended up being the KME commercial chassis, and which actually also is a fairly similar truck to our engine 6. It's the same chassis, same manufacturer. We 3 of our trucks are KME manufactured trucks. So
You've had pretty good experience with those two.
yep. But a lot of the technical stuff we looked at, as far as like the pump assembly, some of the bids came in had a different pump controller. So then you'd have to learn a whole new system. Right now, our tanker and engine 6 have the same controllers. You can go from one truck to the other. It's going to be the exact same. They wanted to try to keep the new truck the same. That way, there's no confusion on how everything works.
Sense.
Did you get the engine you wanted?
Don't know.
So
I know that was it.
yeah, there was, from our understanding right now, the ideal engine that we would like, the L9 Cummins engine, they're going to be discontinuing it in March of 2025. So there's a chance we could still get it, but we've also heard from manufacturers that they might not be able to get a truck in that time period. It might be 2026 for the truck. So, there's different
don't-
factors to it. There's a chance, but it's one of those things where I think the only one that can pretty much guarantee us a pre-2027 emissions engine was the Pierce custom cab. But there was a lot of stuff on that truck that,
Scored pretty well.
yeah,
And how could they guarantee it? Just because of their turnaround time?
different engine manufacturer, and the engines that they use, they're gonna keep in manufacture. They're gonna keep building them all the way up until 2027. And the turnaround on the custom chassis is quicker because they make them, they can produce them faster.
All right, so then the next question is, what do we want to do time frame wise, right?
Well, so the possible motion that I provided talks about adding this to the special town meeting on March 25th, along with the finance and the fireworks updates to the ordinances. Adding this one as a support for approving the fire truck at that meeting. I did call the rep to find out, is one, the select board's talking about it tonight, and would you honor the price for March 25th? There's something in here that said within 30 days.
Yeah.
He said, yeah, we'll consider this date, that 30-day window. I said, would you consider us waiting till June? If the select board decides to wait till the June meeting, he said he can't honor the price. That's it. And his concern goes back to the engine. The longer we wait to buy a truck, more likely we're gonna end up with the newer model, first generation model.
Sounds like we probably will end up with it anyway, but
It's possible, and that's another caveat in this, even this quote, most of the other quotes don't guarantee price because they have to absorb that new
Yep.
cost.
Yep.
We would have to.
wish this timing wasn't such an issue. I have not that I'm gonna insist on anything, personally, but because I don't want to screw up getting the truck in the time frame that we want to get it, but I'm not super comfortable asking a small group of whoever shows up at a special town meeting, 15 people, to approve more than $500,000 expenditure on the town's behalf. So generally, I think I would like to see this done at our regular town meeting. But that might not be possible with this one. And it might be outside of our normal way of doing things. It's a lot of money. And
Yeah.
as we've seen from some of our special town meetings, if, 15 people show up, they decide what the whole town does. So although I think the town would approve this, put to the whole town vote. I don't think we would have an issue with that.
I will take that under advisement for any future
Big
big
expenditures.
expenditures.
So when do we have to figure out how the money gets raised? for
That's
this?
part of the conversation for this evening.
Mhm.
I did
Okay.
provide you, in addition to the sort of matrix that the fire truck committee worked on. I provided sort of an analysis of where we stand financially.
Yeah.
That's the second document. I'm just gonna pull it back up and talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, and where somewhere in here I saw a document saying the discounts, like pay it all up front, pay it all,
Yeah, so
pay
I did-
half of it up
So
front.
I did look at those analysis. If you pay 50% of it, so it's $328,000 within 10 business days of the contract signing, we can deduct 11,000, which is 1.8%. If you pay 75% of it, they'll deduct 2.7% off of it. 90%, 3.2. Now, if we paid all of it within 10 days of signing the contract,
That's not gonna happen.
No,
they would, that's 96% of the bill or 3.6% savings. And it's 100% assurance that what we pay is we'll get the truck without the worry of the engine piece. So even if the engine comes in another $40,000 more, that'll be covered by that. So, there's the bonus, but, I would not advise you guys to dip into your 3 months of reserves.
No, yeah, it doesn't
do it.
match our
for something that we're not gonna have for,
understandings, yeah.
what would they say, 24 months? Or was it more than that?
Yeah, it was 2 years.
2 years? Okay.
Yeah, about 24 months.
Yeah.
25 months. 25 months.
So,
Paying for the truck. So this one is, if the select board wants to go with the fire truck committee's recommendation, it's a $650,000 expense. You currently have $100,000 in reserves. I currently, in my budget to you, have another $50,000
Right.
proposed for FY 25. So you're up to 150,000 to pay for with reserve cash. So now you're down to a potential bond or use of other surplus of 506,000. What I look at in terms of our undesignated fund balance, in FY 23, you budgeted $220,000 of your reserves off the 2 million. So this is June 30, 2022. We just got the audited report last meeting
Mhm.
for 2022. In your budget, you budgeted the use of surplus of 220,000. Do you actually need it? No. I think the actuals and the expenditures, including use of reserves, you're going to have another $274,000 in your, we'll call it $275,000 of additional. You'll have just over $2 million. You use surplus and then but you build it with another $274,000. You have that much more coming back in. So the difference is $50,000 more in cash coming in. Which puts you just over 2 million. So if you allocate 3 months of that surplus, you have about $250,000 of available uses. Now, the June 2023 for the FY 24, you allocated $50,000 for the VPI match. And then as part of that cycle, we also, as part of this year, we moved $200,000 to as a stopgap for the May Day storm event and the PFAS remediation for this year. So we moved another $200,000 out of our unassigned fund balance. So we actually have, in terms of above available for other uses above the 3 months, we actually have a negative amount or zero, really. But I do expect 90% of that back to the town and soon, within the next month or two.
Oh, they're gonna send us
Yes.
money that fast?
It's already three of the, no, all four have been. There's four, I'm sorry. There are four categories we sent. We sent 1A, category A, which is debris cleanup, category B, which is emergency measures, and then category C, we sent 2 of them are for fixes that repairs, basically. The A and the B have already been submitted and approved by FEMA. The state has the money. I have to request that from the state. The C's are in the final stage of their approval, and then they'll have to ask the state. I was just gonna ask the state one time because the process is lengthy, so
Good. I thought that might be a lengthy process.
it's been a lengthy process.
Well,
I'm still not done.
Lengthier. Okay, good. So that will get us back into better shape.
Yeah, so that money will go back to the bottom line at the end of the year. And so that'll come back so I think, and I do anticipate by the end of this fiscal year, we'll have some additional resources. But I don't have 506,000, that's what.
Yeah, no, I got you. So, let me just, I guess I've got 2 perspectives. I think on Karen's point about annual town meetings opposed to special town meeting. I think it's a great point. It's a lot of money and we usually don't spend $500,000 in special meetings. We have been talking about this for a while, and planning for it. And we know that there's a risk reward to waiting. So, I think I said in 1 or 2 meetings ago, it's pay now or pay later and save the taxpayers money. I think everybody would like to know that we saved them money rather than waiting an extra 2 or 3 months just to get their, a broader sort of okay, which I think would just be an okay anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
and we've gotten the okay on putting money aside to buy the new truck because we knew we were going to need to.
Yeah. And we've been putting money in reserve. So,
Right.
There's no news here. It's just when you see the number, you have to figure out how to pay for it. It becomes a little bit more serious or a lot more. So there's that. On the monies, I think without a doubt, we use the reserves, exhaust the reserves that we have, the 100,000.
Right.
And then count on the next, we could build out the reserves into, into this next budget cycle for June. Quick question, when does if we don't go after the bonus payments, when would the actual payments be due?
Leave on delivery,
Which is 2 years.
25 months, so 2 years.
Yep. So,
And interest rates might come down.
yeah, exactly. There's that. But I think philosophically, I'd rather see the town bond for this and pay the loan. And then as we do in every budget cycle, we always have the discussion. Here's what we have outstanding in debt. Do we want to take any money out of fund balance and pay off that debt, or do we leave that and just, raise money for it next year? So we always have that discussion anyway.
Right.
I think to me, it makes sense to have that discussion every year, but after you have the bond in place and the town's paying for it. Not only that, but after we heard Fred's assessment of our last audit, which is a year
Behind.
behind.
Yeah.
We are in excellent status for taking on debts.
And the request on the 25th would be to allow a certain amount for us to start exploring. We wouldn't actually borrow the money until we absolutely need to. And at that time, hopefully rates are better.
Mhm.
and you've built up the reserves enough that we don't have to borrow that full amount. So that's where I, like on this, that one pager that I have where it says paying for the truck, it's about $500,000 sitting there. If I assume we're putting 50,000 into the FY25 budget, and we finally have our FY23 audit done, I'll know even more. And then in another year from now, you'll either have the reserves available to pay for it all, and we don't even actually have to bond.
Mhm.
Or you might have to bond a very small amount to cover the costs.
Exactly.
But it would behoove us not to allow up to a certain amount for bond.
Would we not potentially have $200,000 in the reserve if we put 50 in every year? The truck wouldn't come until,
Yeah, you'd have
Sometime
two
in
more years.
26,
You'd
right?
still have 2 more years.
so we
But-
could have conceivably 200,000.
You could, but if interest rates are back down to 1 or 2%, it might make sense to just borrow the other 350,000.
Especially if we're able to find someplace to get a little bit better return on the money we do have sitting in the
Which-
bank, which I know you have coming up.
Coming up tomorrow.
Okay. So. Mom, do you have anything,
I mean, I
any
think
thoughts on?
if there's essentially 150,000 in a reserve earmarked for the fire truck, and that's not coming out of anything else. That's what
Right.
that money's for. And we can, yeah, push the bond or, not touch our other reserves because as the weather, it's like we seem to need that little bit of a cushion for storm events. And
Mhm.
it's to not dig into that needlessly. Yeah, it might save us $10 or $20,000, but in an emergency,
Don't really want to go out for
Don't-
cans. Right now.
Yeah.
I think getting into what is laid out here is in the town's best interest because you have a price and that's set in stone as long as we hold a special town meeting and say, yeah. Otherwise, we could be looking at 4 or 5% increases. And then any of the benefits that we're paying early or anything like that. I mean, those are less than that. I mean, those are 1, 2, 3% over. Something it could jump up to into the 700s just by waiting until June, unfortunately.
What was the minimum discount percentage?
50%.
If you prepay
Prepay, yeah.
50% of the cost. So if you
Okay.
pay $328,000, you can deduct 11,700.
Right,
Okay.
so, and we'd have
Which
to
is
dip way into our
1.8%.
other reserves to
yeah.
do that. It doesn't seem,
So we
that
don't have,
doesn't make sense.
so we don't have to give them anything for 2 years?
25 months.
Yeah.
Just sign the contract.
Okay.
But I can't sign the contract till I know we have the money.
Well, no, we have the money in what way? We
Through a
would,
bond, a bond.
okay, so someone,
If I
will
can get town meeting approval for a bond up to 556 or, because we have 100 in reserve now.
Mhm.
And if you put another 556 in a bond, up to 556 for a bond, that shows we have the money to pay for the truck.
Okay.
And we can sign it.
we don't have to borrow the whole 556 if we've saved it a little bit more, or if it looks
Correct.
advantageous.
I wouldn't even
Yep.
go forward with the bond until closer to actually needing the truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. We don't want to start paying interest.
And if we got 200 in the bank to offset that, then we'd only borrow 356
So I think, yeah, up to 556.
or up to 5.
Yeah.
Because you have 100 in the bank.
Yeah.
But I think when we form the warrant, town should know that we're gonna bond it.
Yes, that would be in the warrant.
That would be. in-
Yep. But tonight is more about just saying that we'll address this at the town. You accept this bid.
Mhm.
And that you will set this to be a warrant article on the 25th.
Mhm.
I think is what I did.
Right.
So then on your next meeting, you'll have the warrant articles that you approve. And that warrant article will discuss specifically allow the town to borrow up to 556,000 for the use of this.
Yep.
I mean, being that this was brought up previously at the whole town meeting, you know, and there was broad approval for it, I don't think.
Yep.
We're doing the wrong thing by moving forward a little bit.
Anything else? Then look for a motion to award Bulldog Fire Apparatus the winning bid for a KME pumper with 1,500 gallons per minute pump on an international chassis for $656,000 pending special town meeting approval to borrow the necessary funds on March 25th, 2024. Have that motion
So moved.
by Tom, seconded by Rufus. Any other questions or discussions? No.
No.
All right, then all in favor? All right, passes 4-0, one abstention or one absence, I guess. Ah, makes me sweat to spend so much money.
Thanks, thanks, Lucas.
Thank you, Lucas. And thanks to the whole fire truck committee.
Yeah.
For the
Yeah.
time they put in to review all of these.
Yeah, you guys got that
You know,
thing
that-
gridded out so fast. I'm like, there's no.
That's
way."
another thing that would have, you know, to not move forward tonight would have sort of thrown a bucket of cold water on their efforts. Yeah, thanks, guys.
I don't know how they managed to wade through all that stuff. That's crazy.
Is the drawing up there? Is that?
Yeah, that's
That's
the
the
whole
one.
truck.
Yeah.
Yep, cool.
It's the wrong color though.
White.
White is
White's
actually
wrong.
reflects the light.
Oh. All right, then, Kevin, town manager's report.
I'll even share it. So the planning board held a workshop last Thursday, the 22nd, to consider changes to the shoreline zoning maps and ordinances. I know I brought this before you before. We got shoreline zoning, updates to the maps, and LD 2003. All three of those I had hoped tonight to bring to you to have you formally kick off and send through the public hearing process. The planning board decided to host a separate workshop on March 7th on LD 2003. So that's related to our core zoning code modifications that the state has approved through what is considered LD 2003, and it's around affordable housing, and it's around any zone that has single family housing also has to allow for multifamily. Not a huge issue for us given the structure of our zoning code, but there are a few modifications that have to be made related to the affordable housing. So there are some changes. They'll be discussing them on the 7th. On the 11th, I'll ask you to review what Michael and the planning board have been working on and sort of get the blessing to do the public hearing process. And they'll look at those on the 20th. They'll have that public hearing on the 28th. And that's just in time to have all these warrant article approvals ready for the June. Finance Committee is having their first meeting tomorrow. There's quite a few topics on there. I really want to recap the audit again with them. I know they were all here for the meeting, but there's some nuances in there I want to talk about with them. Discuss this upcoming 23 audit process, explore some other municipal banking options in order to try to get better returns, and then sharing that with them the investment policy that came up. We have an investment policy. Yes, we do. Should it be looked at? Yes, it should. So we'll be discussing that a little bit. And then what are our investment strategies? We do have some money that we could be better paying attention to, and I'm hoping the finance committee can help me with that. And then I'd probably share a few details and ideas about the budget and the budget process and get their feedback before presenting to you all on at the workshop the following Wednesday.
It's coming right up.
It is too fast because I lost most of last week to move it. So, the fiber optic broadband project. I know most of you have known about this since last year, April 2023. The Tidewater was awarded the Maine Connectivity Authority's Reach Me grant, and for fiber optic build out. It was finalized and signed about 2 weeks ago. It's intended to help about 80 unserved or underserved addresses in Newcastle who will be eligible for this installation. As part of that grant application, Newcastle has committed a match of 60,000. So we got the invoice for that this morning. So I'll be moving. You had about 25,000 of ARPA funds, and then you had 35,000 of cash that we had that we kicked from one budget to the next.
Mhm.
So that's there. So we have that 60,000. We're not coming here asking for more money. So we're good there.
Oh,
I was just saying, great.
good, good. My understanding was because more money became available, they were actually going to do more than just the unserved.
They're doing an
Okay.
underserved as well. There'll be other opportunities for some there. There are also other grants that they were applying for. That's been part of the holdup is if they went for the if they signed a contract with the grant, Reach Me, would it prohibit them from acquiring some additional federal funds? So they had to figure that out before they could actually move through with this process. So I do know that there are going to be more opportunities in addition to this. So yeah, and they're planning for programs that get to some of the underserved populations.
And the last piece of that was there was supposed to be discussion, maybe some program solutions for people who had affordability issues with this. Do
That
we know
has-
if that's being rolled out?
That is being discussed, yes. And I know that when I met with Tidewater, they did talk about that program and how they're going to implement it. I don't know the ins and outs.
Details. Okay.
Yeah. I am meeting with them later this week. I'll circle back on that.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I put OSHA in here. That's the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Casey's still here. Casey brought this to my attention. They proposed some rule updates that could vastly impact our fire department and, well, the town of Newcastle financially, especially because these changes range from frequency of medical exams for any first responder, required trainings and facility and community preparedness plans and reporting, expands essentially the scope of the administrative arm of fire departments. And even in Maine considers volunteer firefighters employees, and that is impacted by OSHA's rulemaking here. The deadline for public comment is May 6th. There's a little time to get some more information to us. We've been reaching out to our organizations that we partner with, like Maine Municipal Association. You know, the firefighters have other organizations they're involved with to figure out what can we do as a town who's would be vastly impacted by this to help spread the word and share some feedback. So I just wanted you to be aware that this is a challenge we're looking into and trying to figure out what's our next best step. Presidential primaries, they're taking place next Tuesday, March 5th. The poll right here in this community room. Polls will be open from 8 to 8. Nomination papers, I mentioned this at the last meeting. There are several open positions on the ballot. 2 seats for select board and assessors, 1 seat for the school board, and 1 seat for the Great Salt Bay Sanitary District. Papers will be available this Friday, and the filing deadline is the Friday, April 12th, by noon. We close at noon. So, submitted signatures need to be not less than 25 and not more than 100. And public notices have been in the paper. I think there's one scheduled for this Thursday. And I just still have those upcoming agenda items that I will bring to you at some point here soon.
That brings us to our warrant. I guess we can discuss it after. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 16th AP warrant in the amount of $252,425? Moved by Tor, seconded by Tom. Did anyone have anything they wanted to ask about or any clarification? Nope. All right. Then,
Oh,
oh, you
got
did
one.
something? Okay.
The charge for engineering on Winch Road, was that which one was, which engineering study was that?
This is the final design for
Final
the
design?
final design work. Yep. And that I hope to get, so there's category C that's going through the process for the replacement of that.
Yep.
And that has to go through 3 steps. Replace as is, replace with mitigation, and then replace with enhanced mitigation, which is the bridge. So this is taking a little longer than I had hoped, but yeah, they've designed a bridge. I just have to wait to put it out to bid until FEMA tells me, okay. Just sit on it.
And the fish ladder restoration fund expenditure was for the tree.
For tree,
The work,
yeah, some tree work.
Yep. Anyone else? Nope. Then all in favor of approving the warrants passes 4-0. Where does that leave us? It leaves us done. Do I have a motion to adjourn then? Moved by Tor, seconded by Tom, or vice versa. I'm all in favor. 4-0. We are done.
It's pretty good. 56 minutes.
God.